Knowing Show. I am your host, Christene Marie. It is quite late on this January 17th. Technically, it's January 18th, but it's still technically Saturday. I am so happy that you joined me this evening. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the qualities that define you and me, the qualities that we hold and assign value to, that conjure who we are. And even just right before I jumped on here, my sisters and I, we were all chatting about doing versus being, and the qualities that, not even just the qualities, but what comes first. Is what we do propels who we are and our being, or is who we are that then propels what we do and how we spend our life and how we live? Or like what effectively goes first? And so I love that question of, is it the being that drives the doing, or the doing that drives the being? And as I'm thinking about the qualities that define you and me, there's so many different angles and aspects of this that, frankly, I think for so many of us, we actually don't typically consider, in terms of, well, who do we want to be? And then what truly are the metrics and benchmarks of success in terms of what we do? Because when it comes to our doing, so often it's actually shaped by others around us, our colleagues, our customers, our even our competitors, in terms of what is everyone else doing and how do I catch up to them? And then with our being, so often that's actually subconsciously programmed for us by our past. And so much of our being and our doing are actually not even in our control in the first place. So in one sense, it doesn't even matter which one comes first. Perhaps it's more the question of, are you even in control of either one? Do you even know with intention how you're choosing to show up? And are you even choosing to do so consciously? Or is it a subconscious program that's running and driving the ship? And, I think about a number of folks I've been talking to over the last couple of months. We've been talking about the power of our mind. And if we don't know how to truly control our mind, we really actually don't have much control over our inner life, much less what we do. Because we were just talking about this in A Course in Miracles this morning, which is just a daily workbook that I've been moving through every single morning. We read a lesson on here. And what we see is a projection of our thoughts. And so it all starts internally. And then what we see, we act upon. So it all starts internally in so many ways. And at the same time, our choices do self-perpetuate our inputs. So what we do then informs our inner life at the same time. And we actually have this power to then say, I actually want to change my inner life. Therefore, I'm going to change the decisions I'm making to inform and give myself new inputs. I'm actually going to rewire my thinking with what I'm feeding my mind, soul, and spirit. But I can only do that, again, with doing. That takes intentionality, that takes practice, it takes even conscious decisions. So perhaps at the end of the day, when we're thinking which comes first, doing versus being, perhaps conscious, being awake and aware comes first. That actually has to be a qualifier that can then allow us to consider, okay, well, who do I want to be? How do I want to live my life? Because being and doing are very different things. Yes, it's kind of that circular, one feeds the other, but we cannot address either one with intention until you and I are awake and paying attention to the decisions we're making and the thoughts we are having that then informs the decisions we make. And then, vice versa, we can change what we do to then inform our inputs. So if we're consciously, or not even consciously, but if we're consistently, rather, picking up our phones, and our phones are our inputs, or we're consistently distracting ourselves with a podcast every time we have a moment of silence, we're actually never giving our inputs time to even settle, gestate, and have any kind of impact on us, any kind of lasting influence that could then have any impact in the doing and the manifestation of the way that we actually live. Because if the thoughts that we're starting to have we don't give them time to really seep into our souls and have that opportunity to change something at a molecular level, then our actions are constantly going to be the same. And then we'll wonder, why is this having no impact on me? There's this concept of you shall know a tree by its fruit. So it's like you know the type of tree, the type of person by the fruit it bears, by the way that we live. So if we want to ask, well, who are you? What are you doing? And vice versa. What are you doing reflects who you are. So it goes both ways, and we can't isolate one from another. But we have to be awake to really be able to analyze and consider either one, much less both. So to ask this question of the qualities that define you and me, are we awake in the first place? Are we awake of how the past shows up in the present of our inner being? And are we awake to what are the inputs that are feeding the way that I spend my time? What am I intentionally doing? It's like the external hands that are reaching out. You and I are reaching out to then pick. It's almost like, honestly, I love this tree analogy. It's like everything external is the sun and the watering of our tree that then informs the fruit that we bear. So it's like literally the inputs of the sunlight and the water and the nutrients of the soil, all of that is external. And we're making conscious choices, at least hopefully conscious, but we're making choices every single day that informs the degree and quality of the sunlight, the richness of the nutrients, etc., that then informs the watering of our inner life. So both are so entwined, and we cannot divorce the two. If our external life is not healthy, that so often is a mirror that our internal life is not healthy. And if our internal life is not well and vibrant, then surely there will be areas in our life that are reflecting the same. So if there are things, whether it's our marriage, our work, our even our child, our relationship with our kids, if there are things in our life that we do not like, that's a call to arms, to pick up the mirror and look and say, where am I? Where do I need to grow? Where am I actually perhaps not contributing to the wellness of those around me, that then they're having a negative impact on me? But I have the opportunity to, another concept is to take like this, the blinders off, take the logs out of our eyes so that we can actually see clearly as to what's going on. So what that means is look in the mirror, take out whatever is blinding you. And what's blinding us so often is ego, that fundamentally separates us from other people and also separates us from ourselves. We cannot see clearly other people or ourselves if we have ego blinding us. And ego wants to keep us separate. Ego powered by fear, because once ego is gone, it's like desperately grasping to have a place in our lives. And if we actually are willing to displace ego, we're also intentionally displacing fear. And in that process of displacing fear, we can begin to see clearly. And we can begin to start asking the questions of, what does my external reality, the world around me, my relationships, my work, my thoughts, my inner life, what does all of this have to say about me? What am I thinking about? And what does that have to reflect back on me? So often our external world can be, what we don't like is a reflection of our relationships and how we're spending our time, whereas our inner world is a reflection of what we're thinking about. And so we have the power to choose, we have the power to change it, but we actually have to, with intention, take time to address both of those questions. So then to the question, the qualities that define you and me, there's the inner life qualities and the outer life qualities. And who do I want to be in both regards? Who do I want to be in my inner world, and who do I want to be in my outer world? And who we want to be in both regards does translate into what we do and how we show up. This concept of discipline, I started reading Jim Collins' Good to Great again the other day. And my theme for this year is predictability. It's discipline. It's showing up every day consistently. And the very first, I think it's the very first chapter, he's going through the pillars of the book, and he says we're going to go through the disciplined mind, the disciplined person and the disciplined actions. There is something around, Jocko Willink says this, discipline equals freedom. If we want to live free, we actually have to have the ability to live disciplined in our mind and in our habits, in our external life. There's these themes, there's these qualities that we can look around at others and say, okay, what are those really successful people doing? How are they living? And then am I actually willing to pay the price? Am I willing to pay the price to be disciplined? I'm at my sister's house and there's this really weird noise that was going off on the fridge. I think it calmed down. Am I willing to pay the price to be the person that I want to be and to live the life that I want to live, the doing and the being? And there's a cost if we're not willing to pay that cost, the cost of discipline, let's say. There's the cost of regret. There's a cost of broken relationships. There's the cost of our own shame, of knowing we're not living up to our potential, that we're actually not living great. You know, the concept of Jim Collins' book is move from good to great. And so in order for us to do that, we actually have to look in the mirror of what is great for me? What actually does greatness look like for me and you? Our own individual, unique selves, because I do not have your call. I don't have your qualities. I don't have your gifting. You are truly, and I really believe this, you truly are one of a kind. No one else has your story and no one else has your soul. Therefore, you are an enigma. And what a blessing that is. And because of that, each one of us has a distinct and unique purpose and reason. And therefore, greatness for you is different than greatness for me. But are we willing to pay the cost to get from good to great? What are the qualities necessary? Yesterday, I was talking about examining the through lines from different phases of our life. Just the other day and today, yesterday and today, I was working on my resume. I haven't worked on my resume in 6 years because I started my business 6 years ago. But I was looking at a job where they're looking for a full-time person. And I was like, well, maybe if I submit for a full-time role, my company could come in and be a contractor. So I was working on my resume, and it was really interesting seeing the through lines. What are the lines throughout your life? Like if you were to draw out your life literally on a timeline, a piece of paper, and the peaks and the valleys, what are the consistencies, the people, the doing and the being that have contributed to consistent touch points along the way? You know, there's elements where we'll enter into a persona, or we'll enter into a almost like a role, let's say, where, man, if you have an assistant job, you're an awesome assistant for maybe 3 years or 2 years, and then you're done. But the question is, well, what lit you up during that job that you carried with you to the next one? And so it's not just the role, but it's the who you were at that time and what you did, the being and the doing, that then has consistent through lines throughout various points of your life that you can identify, you know, that really is life-giving. We talked about this the other day, A Course in Miracles. Y'all, I've been loving this book. 2 mornings ago, we talked about the fact that there is no neutral thought. There's no neutral thought. Something is either life-giving or life-depleting. It's either fear or love, truth or false. You know, it's truth or illusion. That's what it said. And so everything in our life, every experience also has a life-giving element to it or a life-depleting element. So in order for us to actually consider, well, what are the qualities that currently define me, and what are the qualities that I actually want to define me, both in my being and my doing, in order to actually ensure that I am living a life that I can look back on and be proud of. Y'all, legacy is why we're here. You know, this is why we do the show. Who do we want to be? What do we want to do that really allows for us to walk in our greatness to begin with? And so, you know, there's just a big degree of responsibility here, but it's also, and I want to say, and there's a large degree of responsibility, and it's really exciting because we have so much power. We have so much choice, and it's really easier to live as victims, and it also is so much more freeing to assume that responsibility and to assume that power and take that power back, because so often we've actually given it to other people. But when we take that power back, there's something really beautiful about that. So I just want to take a quick moment and check in here with the chat. It's good to see you guys. Shane, thank you for coming on here. DPD, Georgie, thank you for coming on here. 248 Chuck, good to see you. Evan Last, crazy. You said, yes, the life-giving that you've learned, you give to somebody else. Oh, I love that. Isn't that so true? Isn't this so true? It's like what we actually consume and what we actually take, we then get to give to other people. Y'all, this is really interesting. We invest in ourselves so that the overflow is life-giving to others. We give life. We take the oxygen mask first so that then we can help others. And sometimes helping others looks so different. But I'm just so glad you said that. It's from the overflow that we love, and then we love in return. And there's, we talked about this earlier. You shall know a tree by its fruit. How well are we loving others? Because if there's not a whole lot of love in our life, that's usually a mirror that we probably could do a little bit of work there. Javer, thank you for coming. Javier, I think. Good to see you, Suit. Burn the World. Avon Last. All right, y'all. I think I'm going to jump off tonight. I know it's late. Thank you all so much for joining. I am going to be on tomorrow morning. I anticipate probably 8:30 a.m. for A Course in Miracles. We're just going through this every morning, and it's been really, really encouraging for me. I'm doing it for my sake and just going live so that anyone who wants to join can. This practice of reading through this every single morning is really an exercise of effectively going into the arena, you and I, to train and cultivate our minds to learn something new, to go through some mental gymnastics, some stretching and evolving. It's like going to the gym for our physical body, but we're doing it for our mind to reprogram, to ensure that we're effectively getting to that point of we can't train and learn something new until we actually come to a baseline of stasis where our body truly is actually at peace and we're not in fight or flight or freeze mode. And then once we're in that place of peace, then we can introduce a new thought and actually learn something new. So tomorrow morning and every morning for this year, that's part of what we're doing. So with that, thank you all so much for joining. George Shepard, 8:30 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning. And I'm aiming for that time most days, 8:30 p.m. Eastern as well. In the evenings is when we do the Knowing Show. But obviously tonight, I was on very late. Alex Reed, good to see you. Sam Paul, thank you so much for coming on here. Mr. J. Dave, good to see you. Giorgio, I'm good. I'm glad you are. Y'all have a wonderful evening. I will see you tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. Eastern, and we'll go through lesson 18 of A Course in Miracles. Today's lesson was so good. If you guys are interested in A Course in Miracles, read lesson 16. And if you want to read lesson 17, but lesson 16 so far out of the last few days has been my favorite. So with that, I will see you all tomorrow morning and have a wonderful evening.